Good day to you. If you've ever been on Facebook, I'm sure you've seen one of these kinds of posts. A post where a friend goes on and says, "Looking for a new way to make chicken. Need suggestions. Go." Or a friend says, "Looking for a place to go out with my boyfriend or girlfriend tonight. Everywhere else seems expensive. Need to know a new place. Go." The whole idea of going on Facebook, or any social media platform for that matter, to usher in a group of friends' opinions to help you make a decision is really what this chapter is all about, this chapter on social networks. And it begins really with the whole concept of a graph analysis to explore the material in the chapter. A graph analysis is a mathematical way of understanding the world, but in this case it's used to understand the connections that people have on social media by presenting them in terms of a graph. And the terms that go along with depicting those relationships on a graph are what we're going to explore in our video instruction lecture today. So it starts out with this idea of a node. A node is every person in a social network. So it's every friend, every follower, every person that belongs to you and you belong to through your social network. Now, just on a side note here, some social networks are what is known as open networks. That would be Twitter, for example. You don't need somebody's permission to follow them on Twitter. Of course, they can block you, but the initial contact and the initial association that you have with them can be done without their permission. So it's an open system. Whereas Facebook is a closed system. You need to approve somebody to be your friend before you can communicate with them, and even then, they're not always going to see what you're posting on your feed. Many people years ago predicted that Twitter would explode way past Facebook because it is an open system, but it hasn't. And perhaps the other reasons were not really discussed, such as the 140 character limitation. It was very original when it came out, but it has served to be a limitation for Twitter's growth. That's a discussion for another time. We're going to go into this mathematical chapter, though, today, which is called Social Networks. It's a mathematical chapter because it takes basically graph analysis and uses it to map out social connections on social media and the internet. And one of the first terms talked about through this graph analysis is a node. A node is the idea that each person is a particular point within the network, and the communication goes between people. When communication goes between people, it is also therefore going through nodes. It has to go directly to that person before it can leave and travel somewhere else. It's not going into the rock, the communication. It's not going into a house. It's going into a person. They are the node. Also represented on the graph is this idea of an edge. An edge is a connection of interests that you have in this social network. And so if both of you are very interested in a particular band, that's what brings you together. You share information about the band. You share maybe links to YouTube videos of a band. Similarly with food and cooking interests. Similarly with interests in movies. These are edges. They are connections of interest as represented on the graph. The next concept is a degree. A degree is how far people are removed from each other. So if you think about your friendships, and especially friendships on social media, think about how far removed you are from somebody who is a friend. Do you know them because they are a friend of a friend, or a friend of a friend of a friend, or an associate of a friend, or a relative of a friend of a friend of a friend? This is the degrees of separation that was spoken about in the film with Kevin Bacon that the book also references. It refers to how far removed you are from people versus how closely connected you are by having a direct relationship with them. Next up in this chapter is the idea of ties and properties of ties. Tie strength is the degree to which two people are bound together. It refers to their history with each other. The history could be entirely online. It could be how they've gotten to know each other through texting, become closer, and started to self-disclose with each other, started to share photos with each other, started to share fears and aspirations. Tie strength refers to how quickly those people could split apart if things go wrong versus what the bond is that holds them together. Balance theory is a version of tie strength that speaks to the idea that we like to have balance in our life. And so when you communicate with somebody on your social media platform, posting a photo on Instagram, somebody comments on it, balance theory says that that person is expecting you to go comment on one of their photos, because we like to have evenness, we like to have balance in our life. Yet another concept is clusters. This is the idea of nodes being close together because they live near each other, because they have really strong interests. When you think about your social media connections, think about those people who you communicate with the most. Think about those people who you're not guarded in your opinions. You say exactly what you're thinking. You're not trying to massage it so that they don't get offended. Think about those people that you can contact anytime during the day or night. These are our clusters. Clusters of people have a closeness that's not the same for other people who are also nodes in the network. And then there's the idea of a structural whole. A structural whole is where you have two clusters with different information, but they have no way to share it. So think about if you're a multiple social media platform user. Think about if you have at least one set of friends on Tumblr, for example, and another set of friends on, well, I won't say YouTube, I'm trying to bring in those other social media in my examples, but another set of friends on Facebook. And these two friends use those social media platforms because neither one likes the other one that much. They don't like the drama of Facebook, or they don't like the writing component that's needed for Tumblr. These people, since they're not on the same social media platform, do not communicate. They are clusters that are not able to come together, and therefore there is a structural whole. Now, the next subject that I want to discuss is properties of nodes. You have connectors under properties of nodes. Connectors are people that bring others together. I have a friend, his name is Jim, and I see him at golf tournaments. I sometimes see him around town. I sometimes see that he posts stuff on Facebook. He is a person who's always introducing people. He's a person who, if you're a third person walking up and he and somebody else is talking, he's going to turn to you and he's going to say, what we're talking about is the weather right now, how hot it is. He's always, in other words, trying to bring people together and to connect them. And people who have that role on social media, that's what they're referred to. They're referred to as connectors. If somebody says, okay, does anybody want to go horseback riding today? They put it on Facebook. I have a friend who does that, lives in California. They're connecting all the people who are part of her network into this one activity that might be a possibility. And centrality is another concept that refers to properties of nodes. It refers to the importance of one particular node to a network. Of your friends and followers on your social media platform, is there one person who, if they sort of dropped out, then a lot of other people would drop out as well? They tend to have more centrality to the network. If you look at those of you who have social media as part of your workplaces, for example, the boss who's on the social medium often has centrality. Without the boss, there's not going to be a cohesive bringing together of everybody, because people are wondering what the boss thinks. People are wondering whether they can get a raise, whether they can get time off. When's the boss going to be off so that they can work and feel a little bit more freedom? There's more centrality to the boss in a social network made up of connections amongst employees. Now let's look at network theory in social media specifically, and we return to the concept of social capital. Social capital talked about earlier in the book, but really what it's about is connections that have value. They're not just people that you know, although that in and of itself, to be honest, in my view, is of value, but they're people who can deliver information and insight and resources and emotional support to you. These are people who have value to you. And as in a way, network theory in social media and the use of social capital serves to enforce norms. We know, for example, that if you do something wrong, one of the norms is that you're supposed to apologize. And if you're supposed to apologize, the other person is also supposed to recognize the apology with a thumbs up on social media, or a like, or a thanks, or an apology on their part. And so the whole idea of doing something wrong or something that you regret is a social norm that plays out on social media in a very specific way. Now, bridging social capital is not always the easiest thing to do, because people's personalities get in the way, and jealousies, and sometimes feelings of inadequacy. And so bringing people together who both have value in your life, let's say, for example, that you're applying for a job, and you're using your social media platform to try and find a connection with somebody out there who can give you a job. And you get offered a job by somebody, and it's not really what you want. It's a clerical job, for example, where you're in an office all day, and you're very grateful for it, but you're not sure about it. And then another person on your network gives you a contact about a job as well. The first person follows up and asks you, what do you think about this job? And you hedge, and you are hesitant, and you don't commit. And then eventually you reveal that you're looking at another job, and then they become offended that you didn't take their chance, and they went to this trouble for you to try and get you a job, and you're not taking them up on it. These are part of the personality problems that we have with bridging social capital, bringing together two people who have value to us because of our connections with them. Now, that's very different from bonding social capital. Bonding social capital is the endurance and the meaningfulness of a relationship that you have with somebody. Can it survive, for example, a fight? Can it survive not having talked for months with each other? Can it, having survived, you're involved with somebody that they used to be involved with? This is what bonding social capital refers to. It refers in large part to families. Families serve as bonding social capital. You can do a lot in a family and still be forgiven. Your family is probably your strongest bond in life for most people, and you're spending so much intense time with that group of people that to have it all wiped away because of a circumstance that goes by is normally highly unlikely. So there's a strong bond to that social capital network. Finally, the chapter finishes up with social networks in practice. And what this is getting at is how social networks play out in terms of disseminating information. And so there is a term used to refer to people who play a central role in that. They are called market mavens. They are people who gather and distribute information. They want you to know about the latest technology. They want you to know about a buy, etc. So on any given day, almost everybody's Facebook feed is fed with so-and-so likes Walmart, so-and-so likes Target. These people are market mavens. You may remember about a year ago, there was a meme going around on various social media. Sorry, it wasn't a meme, it was a video. And it was showing a futuristic car that would be driving along, and then the doors open up into wings, and then it takes off and it flies. And it's talking about how travel will be in the future. I don't know who found that, but that person was a market maven. And they managed to share it probably with close to the entire world. And had that video not been on social media, I probably would have never seen it. So that market maven turned me on to, and perhaps many of you in this class, this new possibility of traveling in the future, where you don't have to sit at traffic lights and you can go from point A to point B without having to go on country roads. What an exciting idea. Networks in practice involve social influence. If you watched the Democratic convention last night or the Republican convention last week, you'll see that all kinds of people are tweeting and posting about them, reviewing the performances of the people who are speaking at the conferences, reviewing Ted Cruz, for example, at the Republican conference, the Republican convention, or reviewing Michelle Obama last night. These people are trying to influence their followers as to, in this particular case, whether a person gave a great speech or a not so great speech. These people also will go far in digging up information on political people who they don't like and posting, look at this person and their tax returns. Look at this person and what they voted for in the past. Look at this person and what they said. Look at this person and their relationships. These people are trying to have social influence. I saw a post last night on Facebook. I'm not saying that I agree with it. I'm not using it here to editorialize, but I'm using it to serve as a final example of this. Somebody posted, what would have happened if President Obama, at his nomination for the Democratic candidate to be president, had stood on stage with 3 wives and 5 children? Would he have been viewed the same as Donald Trump standing on stage with 3 wives and 5 children? I don't know, but I think it's an interesting question, and it's one that has influenced my thinking. I saw it last night, and I'm still trying to answer that question to myself today. That person has had primary social influence on me and probably others through that post. So this then sums up our chapter on social networks. Have a great day.